Let me tell you about something that happened last week. It was one of those nights where the world outside seemed to have fallen into a deep, silent sleep. I was up late, working on my laptop in the living room. The only light was the soft glow from my screen, casting long, dancing shadows across the walls. It was probably around a.m. when I first heard it, a sound that didn't belong. It started faintly, a low, rhythmic scratching. At first, I dismissed it. Probably just a branch scraping against the house in the wind, right? But then it got more distinct, more deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from the direction of my front window, the big one that looks out onto the street. I muted my video and listened. The scratching stopped. A moment of silence hung in the air, thick and heavy. And then, a bark. But this wasn't just any bark. It was the happy yapping of a neighbor's golden retriever or the territorial woof of a small terrier. This was a deep, guttural sound. It was a single, lonely bark that echoed in the stillness of the night. It felt wrong. It sent a shiver straight down my spine. I crept over to the window, my heart starting to pound against my ribs. I pulled back the edge of the curtain just a tiny sliver and peered out into the darkness. The street was empty. The streetlight on the corner cast a hazy, orange glow, but the space directly in front of my house was shrouded in shadow. I couldn't see anything. No person, no animal, nothing. I let the curtain fall back into place, my breath catching in my throat. Maybe I was just tired. My mind was probably playing tricks on me. I tried to convince myself of that, walking back to the couch and trying to focus on my work again. But a few minutes later, it happened again. Scratch, scratch, and then that same deep bark. This time it sounded closer, more insistent. My imagination started running wild. What kind of dog would be out at this hour, alone, and acting so strangely? I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. We don't get a lot of strays, and everyone keeps their pets inside at night. This felt out of place, unsettling. I decided I had to see what it was. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and took a deep breath. My hand was shaking a little as I reached for the doorknob. I know, probably not the smartest move, but curiosity and a healthy dose of fear got the better of me. I turned the deadbolt as quietly as I could. The click sounded like a gunshot in a silent house. I slowly pulled the door open, just a crack, and shone my phone's light into the night. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating my front porch and the small patch of lawn beyond. And there it was, sitting perfectly still, right in the middle of the light, was a dog. But oh man, this dog was something else. It was large, much larger than I expected. Its fur was dark and matted, almost black. But the most striking thing was its eyes. They didn't reflect the light from my phone the way a normal animal's eyes would. They just seemed to absorb it, the dark, empty void staring right back at me. It wasn't growling or baring its teeth. It was just sitting there, watching me. Its posture was rigid, unnatural. Its head was cocked to one side, as if it were studying me, trying to figure me out. And then, it let out that bark again. It wasn't directed at me in an aggressive way. It was more like a statement, a declaration, like it was saying, I'm here. I felt frozen to the spot. Every instinct was screaming at me to slam the door shut and lock it. But I couldn't move. There was something hypnotic about the way it just sat there, so calm and so utterly terrifying at the same time. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, me in my doorway and the dog on my lawn, locked in this silent standoff. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it moved. It didn't run or bound away. It turned, slowly and deliberately, and trotted off into the darkness, disappearing from the beam of my flashlight. It didn't make a sound as it went. One moment it was there, and the next, it was gone, swallowed by the night. I quickly shut the door, my hand fumbling with the lock. I locked the deadbolt, then the doorknob lock, and even slid the chain across. My heart was racing. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. What on earth was that? I've seen a lot of dogs in my life, but I have never seen one that looked or acted like that. The stillness, the eyes, that weird, hollow bark. It was like something out of a horror movie. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Every little creak of the house made me jump. Every rustle of leaves outside sent my mind spiraling. I kept going back to the window, peering out, expecting to see those dark eyes staring back at me. But there was nothing. The street remained empty and silent. The next morning, in the bright, cheerful light of day, the whole thing felt like a bad dream. It seemed almost ridiculous. A creepy dog? Maybe I had just been overtired and my mind had exaggerated everything. I walked outside, half expecting to see paw prints on the lawn or some other evidence. But there was nothing. The grass was undisturbed. It was as if it had never been there. I asked my neighbors later that day if they had seen a large, dark stray dog around. I described it as best I could. Everyone said no misses. Gable next door, who knows every dog in a 5-block radius, said she hadn't seen any new animals. It made the whole experience even more bizarre. Was I the only one who saw it? For the next few nights, I was on high alert. I made sure all the curtains were drawn tightly as soon as it got dark. I left the porch light on. I even put a chair against the front door, which, in hindsight, was a bit dramatic, but it made me feel a little safer. The scratching and the barking didn't return. The nights went back to being quiet and uneventful, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I couldn't get the image of that dog out of my head. The way it just sat there, its dark eyes fixed on me. It didn't seem like a normal animal. It felt like it was there for a reason, like it was delivering a message. But what message? I have no idea. Sometimes, when I'm up late now, I find myself listening for that faint scratching at the window, for that one deep, solitary bark to break the silence. I don't know if it will ever come back, and honestly, a part of me hopes it does, just so I can get another look, to try and understand what I saw. But a much, much bigger part of me hopes I never, ever see the dog again. Has anything like this ever happened to you? Have you ever seen something you just can't explain? Something that just felt off? Let me know in the comments below. It would be kind of comforting to know I'm not the only one. Anyway, thanks for listening to my spooky story. Stay safe out there, and maybe keep your porch light on tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.